Welcome to Bamfordrose and another question of the week. This week's question is residual values across the Aston Martin range and what the heck is going on. Obviously, the current times that we're in, it's definitely a buyer's market at this moment in time. No one really, with uncertainty, wants to outlay too much money, and whether that means this is just a uncharacteristic dip and it's going to return to prices that we used to see, or whether the prices are just going to stay at this now they've sort of normalized at them, who knows. But at this moment in time, the market is very, very strange. We'll go through each model in turn, and this is going to help you if you're a buyer. Sorry if you're a seller, it's not going to help you too much, I'm afraid. But there's only a few people to blame for the marketplace at this moment in time. So 4.3 V8. Those prices now for 05 V8 are typically starting private sale as low as 20, 22, 23. There's a lot of trade sales happening at 25. And a 4.3 all the way to a 4.7, the cutoff point now for like very best 4.3 seems to be about 37, 38k, that sort of territory. Obviously, a very low mileage car, it is worth paying the money for, because then you're coming along like the new owner and getting a really nice car for your money. And mileage, condition, service history, these things really do affect Aston residual values massively. This is why it's really important to buy at the right price, because if you don't, you have the car for a period of time and you want to get out of it, it's going to be very difficult to get anywhere close to what you've got in it. So obviously price point going in is very important. 4.7 V8, 2008, 9, that sort of territory, starts at about 37, 38k where the 4.3 left off, and then goes all the way up to about 70k. So this is your very last sort of 4.7 V8 Vantage prior to new Vantage. Yeah, the new Vantage with that grille. Okay, it's Marmite. There's a lot of people that love it. I like classic and understated, so new Vantage doesn't tick my boxes, but from some angles it looks quite nice. Got a great engine in it, but anyway, different car. So up to about 70k, the 4.7. So then you've got new Vantage. This is your Mercedes engined V8 Vantage, and those prices are now starting at about the 100k mark. I've seen a slightly higher mileage, about 20k miles, go for, I don't know, what was it, about 90k, something like that, but I think that's out of the ordinary. So new Vantage starting about 100k. Now, a year or so ago, these were 160k cars by the time they were spec'd. So for the few mileage that you see these cars advertised at, and a year or so down the line, this is a chunk of cash. This is 60k that car has lost in depreciation. And I think that outgoing 4.7, so an M430 or one of the last 4.7 V8 Vantages that are up at 70k, and the first new V8 Vantages at 100k, these are the two most riskiest cars to buy, because there's a lot of cars from above new Vantage pushing that very last 4.7 downwards a bit, and there's a lot of newer V8 Vantage which the factory are pricing to sell. Who knows if they're going to come up with a grille update, styling update, which could potentially push that 100k price of that starting V8 down very, very low. So I would say only buy those cars if you're into them for the long term and you don't need to get out within a few years, and losing some money is not that critical. Next we've got V12 Vantage. Now the old 6-speed V12 Vantage from, what was it, 09 to about 13, 14, that sort of era. They're now hovering around the 60k mark, which is a phenomenal amount of car for 60k. That's an unreal buy. These cars used to be a lot more expensive than this, and you've now got V12 VS that came in at about 2014. Retailing for about 68 to 70k, and there's a lot of those in the marketplace that potentially could push that price of a 6-speed V12 Vantage down lower. How that compares, you know, if you get a V12 Vantage 6-speed manual at 65k, yet you've got your N430 up at 70k. The M430 is a great car, V8 great car. It's just the principle of that overlap, and the V12 being lower price, which is quite difficult to get over. And I don't know how the market is adjusting itself to work that one out. But V12 VS, you know, these were 160k plus cars a few years back. Now down at entry prices I've seen 68k. So V12 VS. Paddle shift, great gear system. That paddle shift system in that car really works well. That's a phenomenal amount of car for the money. And we've then got DB9. So if we go back to 04 DB9, there's a lot of private sale DB9s going for about 25k in the marketplace. Now it's buyer beware on those cars, because some of them need a lot of TLC, and you could buy a 25k car and you easily need to spend 15k on it in a workshop to get it on the straight and narrow. So pre-purchase inspection is a must on those cars. The 450 horsepower DB9 was in until about 09, when that centre key start came in, and those engines were 470 horsepower, and that cut-off point for a 450 horsepower DB9 is around about 40k. So DB9 is spanning 25 to 40k. We've then got the 470 horsepower DB9, as I said, with that glass centre key start, seemed to start about 40k. And they'll go all the way up to about 55k before a 2013 DB9 kicks in. Now 2013 DB9, DB9.2, that was a huge evolution. Carbon ceramic brakes, 510 horsepower motor that with a simple ECU reflash can be 565, because that motor was the same as the Vanquish. So at a starting price of 55k, that's a heck of a lot of car for the money. And together with V12 VS 7-speed, a 2013 DB9 has got to be my top tip to buy. Okay, price is probably only ever going to go down, but if you're looking at spending 45k on a DB9, it's got to be worth stretching to try and get a DB9.2. Great driving cars, and you know, this is years worth of evolution that the factory put into the DB9. It handles great electronic adaptive suspension. It's basically a DBS, but with a different body kit on. It's a phenomenal car. The next is DB11, and that car has not fared well. In 2017, when the first 1,000 pre-production cars came out, they had to be top spec'd. They were 200k. You know, we're now down at 90k for those cars. You know, they've easily dropped 100k in 2 years. We've then got new Vanquish. So this was 6-speed Vanquish before it went 8-speed. They seem to be in the bracket of about 85k up to 100k, and then 100k for the 8-speed Vanquish. Now again, this is a crossover point, which is very odd. You've got your best 6-speed auto Vanquish and starting point 8-speed Vanquish at a higher price than DB11. Okay, Vanquish at the time was the Halo product, but now you have the older models worth more in the second-hand market than the newer models. It's quite insane. Similar thing can be said about the new V8. This is the acid test of how the market has responded to those cars. If the new V8 had the DB10 grille on the front, that would have probably been an absolute sales winner. DB11, well, the they released it with a V12, and then their own engineers in marketing slated it and said the V8 was better. So those entry first level DB11s with a V12 engine now are languishing in residual values. We've then got classic Vanquish. Obviously this is a specialist's choice. Now, until this relatively recent dip in the market happened, the transition between a non-S and an S used to be about 120k. That's fallen. Now 85 to 100, there seems to be about the best money for a non-S. It'd have to be real low mileage, absolutely mint condition for that. And then a Vanquish S seems to now be starting at about 95, but there are a lot of these cars that aren't selling. But as I say, Vanquish is a specialist purchase. Two cars that caught my eye this week were both at Nicholas Mee. Both absolutely fantastic cars. And one of them is the prototype V12 Vantage S. The prototype 6-speed V12 Vantage. So this is the blue car that was launched at the show. That's selling for about 300k. It's a very, very special car. It's been up for sale for quite a while. I don't see why some collector hasn't snapped that up. That's just a mega car to own. The next is they have a 177 for sale at the moment, which they've got for about 1.4, 1.5 million, something in that bracket. This was a 1.2 million pound car, and to be able to buy a 177 is quite a rare thing, but to only see it at that value, it's a bit disappointing. It should be a lot higher. Obviously this is no slight on Nicholas Mee. They prepare and sell top cars, probably the best independent reseller in the country. V12 Zagato, we look after one for one of our customers, and in comparison to 177, the values of those is very different. So if a V12 Zag went to auction today, it's probably going to get somewhere in the region of 550 to 650k, and considering that started off at 400k, that percentage increase makes the 177 figure seem quite low. I'm very surprised 177 just doesn't get snapped up by collectors. Anyway, if you're buying an Aston and you want to know some our opinion on some good models to buy at the right price and models to avoid because potentially they're destined for a fall, then there you have it. That's our opinion on Aston residual values.